TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel's security establishment urges the Israeli public to resolve domestic differences and disputes. Israel's police and IDF intelligence are set to deploy additional forces to both Jerusalem and the West Bank districts of Judea and Samaria to contend with possible hostilities in the advent of the Muslim month of Ramadan. The U.S. State Department reemphasizes its concern related to the deepening relations between Russia and Iran. The Lebanese-Iranian proxy Hezbollah continues to bolster its military power at the detriment of the people of Lebanon. Speaking at a memorial ceremony for 76 Israeli troops who were instantly killed when two helicopters collided mid-air on February 7, 1997, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant asserted that similar to the mission which the soldiers intended to execute prior to the fatal, heartbreaking disaster, also today, the Israel Defense Forces act as an iron wall to block the Shiite wave, which aims to creep in from the northeast.
את הפעילות המבצעית הקרקעית ברצועת הביטחון בלבנון, אליה עשו דרכם הלוחמים שנספו באסון, החליפה פעילות מגוונת ורב-ממדית. גם היום, כמו לפני 26 שנים, מהווה צה"ל את קיר הברזל, החוסם את הסופה השיעית הנושבת ממזרח ומאיימת על החיים ועל סדרי העולם הנהוגים באזורנו. גם היום אנו ממשיכים לפעול בכל זמן ובכל מקום למול ההתבססות האיראנית בזירה הצפונית, למול צבא הטרור של חיזבאללה הממשיך להתעצם על חשבון רווחתם ושלומם של אזרחי לבנון.
Also addressing the memorial ceremony, IDF Deputy Chief of General Staff Major General Amir Baram seized the opportunity to underscore the vital importance of defending Israel, the nation-state of the Jewish people, which was the task the 76 Israeli troops intended to execute prior to the horrendous disaster.
משחר קיומנו כעם מצווים אנו לזכור, זכר למעשה בראשית, זכר ליציאת מצרים, ובדורנו שלנו גם זכרם של אלו שנתנו חייהם ונפשם למען המסד של שיבת עמנו לארצו, לממש בה את חלום הדורות, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ולהגן על קיומה, ביטחונה ושלום אזרחיה של מדינת ישראל.
General Baram went on to stress the importance of implementing the lessons learned from the fatal accident to ensure that the memory of the troops will serve a purpose for generations to come.
זכרם של חללי אסון המסוקים ונסיבות מותם מלווים אותנו כאש התמיד והם כצו מוסרי בעבורנו. צו מוסרי להדריך, לכוון וללמד את דור המפקדים הצעיר לעשות את העבודה בצורה נכונה בתאי הטייסים ובעת התנועה המבצעית בשבילים ובוודיות, וניסיוננו שנלמד בעשרות מבצעים ופעולות במעלה השנים. צו מוסרי של אחריות כבדה וידיעה שנפעל באמונה ובנחישות וללא לאות לפגיעה בתשתיות הטרור הצבאיות של ארגון חיזבאללה בחזית ובעומק לבנון. וצו מוסרי הניתן לדאבון ליבנו במחיר חיים להבטחת ההמשכיות, הביטחון והשלום לעם ישראל ולמדינת ישראל.
General Baram went on to emphasize that many tasks remain ahead, and while Israel's security forces will remain unrelenting in facing these challenges, without broad support from Israeli society, contending with future threats would be rendered unachievable.
משימות רבות עוד לפנינו. ביהודה ושומרון אנו פועלים ימים ולילות במבצעי סיכול ומעצרים כנגד גל הטרור המאיים להתנפץ. הזירה הצפונית והצפון-מזרחית על כל מעגליה ממשיכה להשתנות בקצב מהיר ומחייבת אותנו להתאים את המענה המבצעי היכן שצריך כדי להיות ערוכים היטב למערכה. אם יתרחש העימות הזה, אנו נידרש לאומץ לב, לתבונה לנחישות ולגב הרחב של החברה הישראלית. לכן חשובה יותר מכל אתגרינו היא צדקת הדרך, ובתוכה המשימה החשובה מכולן, לדעת להתגבר על השונות ועל כל המחלוקות הפנימיות למיניהן.
Meanwhile, overnight, as part of Operation Wavebreaker, IDF, ISA, or Shin Bet, and Border Police Special Operations units conducted counterterrorism activities throughout the West Bank districts of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. During the course of the separate operations, 12 suspected terror operatives were apprehended, including 8 from the city of Hebron alone. And while the operational activity instigated 2 separate riots in the village of Naamah, where crowd dispersal means were utilized, and in the village of Karawat Bani Zayed, where IDF troops responded with fire to the hurling of improvised explosive devices in their direction, no injuries were reported to the Israeli troops. In contrast, in the latter incident, the IDF spokesperson's unit confirmed that one Palestinian who hurled an IED was hit. Meanwhile, in Washington, State Department spokesman Ned Price noted that the United States continues to work closely with both Israel and the Palestinian Authority in efforts to alleviate tensions on the ground. Nevertheless, the U.S. is under no illusion about the fact that the recent visits by Secretary of State Antony Blinken, CIA Director William Burns, and U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan would have a decisive change to the reality at hand.
We were under no illusions that a single visit would be able to immediately reverse the tide of violence, the accelerating pace of violence that we've seen in recent weeks and months and even over a longer time horizon. We continue to work closely with both Israelis and Palestinians to support their efforts to end this cycle of violence. And our overarching goal, beyond the very near term, this immediate goal, is to support the de-escalation of tensions and to work with the parties to take action to lessen the violence, which has already taken far too many lives just at the beginning of this year, as we look to advance the longer-term prospects of a negotiated two-state solution between Israelis and Palestinians.
It is important to know that while the United States has warned of a potential intifada, an Arabic term for a violent popular uprising, Israel's defense establishment is preparing for events that could threaten stability on the ground. Among others, Israel's national police intends to call up 4 additional border police reservist companies to serve as reinforcements in anticipation of possible terror attacks and violent demonstrations during the month of Ramadan, which is due between March 22nd until April 20th. Moreover, riot police and border police forces will hold a number of exercises in the next few weeks, including an exercise that will simulate storming the Temple Mount in Jerusalem in response to violent demonstrations in the ancient compound. Separately, intelligence units will also be given reinforcements so as to allow for early detection of efforts to organize violent demonstrations. Turning to Moscow, where Russian President Vladimir Putin instructed his government to construct a comprehensive mechanism for developing drones in Russia that, after shipments of one-way unmanned aerial vehicles or suicide drones from Iran, have, according to varied reports, repeatedly faced delays.
В ближайшее время правительство должно сформировать соответствующий национальный проект, смысл которого – обеспечить возможности для широкой эксплуатации дронов. И, что крайне важно, высокий уровень локализации их производства.
The Russian head of state further instructed another government agency to accommodate the soon-to-be erected drone industry with a necessary system of personnel training that would further increase the use of these unmanned aerial systems in battle.
И еще, что хотел бы заметить. Вместе с агентством развития профессионального мастерства прошу сформировать систему обучения кадров для развития беспилотной авиации.
Prior to the Russian announcement, which coincided with leaked information regarding Moscow's intentions, U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price responded to the reports by highlighting the Iranian contribution to the effort, which included agreements of Russian support for the Islamic Republic's military development.
We have spoken extensively over the past 6 months or so now about the burgeoning security relationship between Russia and Iran, about the provision of UAV technology from Iran to Russia, but also the fact that this is very much a two-way street. Russia is in turn providing Iran with military and security wares that it has requested as well. It's part of the reason why we've enacted a number of tranches of sanctions against not only Russian actors, but in this case, Iranian actors as well. And in fact, the most recent illustration of that was on Friday when the Department of the Treasury designated 8 Iranian individuals who were reporting or acting on behalf of an entity known as Paravar Pars. It's an Iranian firm that produces UAVs for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force. It's tested UAVs for the IRGC. We designated this entity in September, and then on Friday we took action against these 8 individuals affiliated with it. I can tell you we don't preview, of course, future sanctions actions, but we will continue to look for targets that will allow us to counter this relationship between Iran and Russia, and more concretely, the provision of UAV technology from Iran to Russia that has resulted in untold damage, destruction across Ukraine and to the people of Ukraine.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. We would like to encourage you to persist with prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.